My sweet, beautiful, heart-breakingly sensitive tribe. I'm trying something different today, and I know some of you don't enjoy reading. So here is the audible version of this week's news. Surprise, surprise. I seem to get incredibly soft and mushy this time of the year as my rebirthing date arrives. And I can't really put it to words other than to say, I am so deeply appreciative of you and who you be in my life and in this sense of coming together in true belonging, in speaking to the unspeakable and seeing the unseen together, because I know how it is so much easier to do this together than it is apart. So, what I want to speak to again is the letting go of things in the way of you living into your true desires and what your heartbeat is speaking to. So, where do we go from here after a week of speaking to the mother wound, or how to break the cycles of familial or ancestral abuse? Well, quite simply, it's a choice. It's a choice to stop. And before we get into that, I want to just acknowledge and honor the brave warrior love women that you are, that have just said, you know what, enough. It's time to grow up my child parts and stop blaming and shaming my mother or my father for who I am and who I am becoming, and take full accountability for that. Because what's the point? I think that eventually, maybe after you've gone through a ton of therapy, eventually we've got to all stop blaming our parents for everything. Is it nurture or is it nature? Were you hard done by, or were you won by? We can talk about what we inherited. What was it, genetic or prophetic or pathetic? There are things in your family of origin that were maybe too tight for you or too big. Were you dominated? Were you engineered? Were you abandoned? Were you held too tight? One of my incredible shrinks, many of the ones that I've had, so that he saw this pattern in human behavior, that was that people didn't really start to live fully alive until their parents died. I mean, what's up with that? And let's do some maths with that, because I remember sitting in that particular session and really ruminating and tabulating, because, let's face it, most of us are going to be in our 50s or 60s or maybe our 70s before our parents pass away. So you are going to almost go your whole life without being the fullness of your expression of your true nature, because you don't feel free to do it, because your parents are still walking the earth. And that's a lot of our lives that are only 1/3 lived. And I think that's a condition, a program that is keeping so many of us from breaking through and realizing our huge capacity for fully living and embracing life, all the messy and brutal parts, the brutal parts, where maybe we have to chop down our family trees in hundreds and hundreds of hours of therapy for liberation. And some of us are going to have to cut off members of our family and move on, because some situations we are just so profoundly damaged and continue to be abusive. And that's the path that we have to choose to take. And all of us, no matter what our family of origin is, all of us need to know that we choose our soul family, that you do not need to be beholden to your biology. of belief. You can claim your soul over your blood so you can fully come into yourself and move the frickin' hell on. And sometimes that is your evolution. But I think for the vast majority of us, we could just work on being more loving and allowing and stop bitching about how things were when we were 3 years old and all the current choices of the people we're loving, where we're investing our time, and how our parents basically fucked us up. So yes, do the work, excavate, go in there, but ultimately breathe and know it's up to you to make your choices and create your current reality for a living legacy of your future. Because most of the time they were doing the best they could with what they had. And that's that. And you may have to go through a lot of therapy, a lot of the deep down work to dance with your shadows to get there. And maybe it will cost you a lot of money, and maybe it won't. But just realizing that everybody in your life, parents, relatives, lovers and exes and bosses, everybody is just doing the best that they can with what they have to work with in the moment, any given moment in time. And I think that some people live their whole life never having grown up fully because they are so stuck in resentment and guilt and shame and blame and regret, where they look like fully grown men, but they're boys inside. Or we're fully grown women on the inside, but we're stuck in that place of being 3 or 6 or 12, and we're running companies and nations, and we're on a payback mission to get what they never fully got from their father or their mother, who didn't have it to give in the first place. And I think they're a glorious, bright, intelligent, hardworking men and women that to a huge degree are self-realized, and yet they're still seeking approval to get what they wanted when they were in their childhood. And they may go most of their life waiting for their mother, father world to give them what they never got as a child, to love them into being. And there is some degree of healthiness that belongs to that too. To still looking to get what you didn't get as a child, to grow your child parts from secure attachment in a place of loving, kind, compassionate being. And there is a way that you can manifest the love that you've always been searching for. But if you have not consciously dealt with the wounds of not being loved the way you wanted to be loved in the past, then you could likely go about all of that love and attraction and creation and manifestation in a very toxic way. You have to go about bringing that into being very mindfully if you're unconscious, to get the love that you wanted in the past, getting it now. And you're going to get things come through to you that are going to contort your soul, that are not in integrity. You're going to do things that are coming from a place of lack and self-worth, instead of you coming from a holistic, healed place of, I didn't get it back then, but I know now that I am so worthy of it. Now I am more than enough, and I am open to receiving exactly what I want now. And here's the thing, ceasing to blame your parents for your current reality doesn't invalidate the heartbrokenness or the woundedness or the pain that you have in your psyche from that pain of not belonging, but it does set you free. So stopping the blame sets you free to receive an entirely different and wildly empowered place of choice in your life today, of being a grown-up, which is the power to choose what you are responsible and responding to. You're a grown-up and you have a choice about what you're going to be responsible for. So do it radically, red, hot, holy, raw, vulnerable, and open to everything that is available to you right now. So let's get to the letting go of things in the way of what you want. Because letting go is one of those concepts that gets tossed around a lot in spiritual and personal growth circles. And a lot of times what seems to be parading as life transformation is life disintegration. And it can be a little elusive, right? So in today's contribution, I want to share with you some personal insights that I have gained about letting go and share some tips for letting go with you. Because about a year ago, just on my birthday, actually, to be exact, I'd already had some health issues progress to a level that made everyday life challenging. My adrenals were completely burnt out. I was so tired of living a life that in some degrees, not all, was not fulfilling to me. And in doing so, in ignoring the nudges, in not being willing to listen to my deep down, my energy became very, very limited. But I did realize that I had to start getting even clearer about what was really important to me, what truly mattered, to trust my own intuition and follow my own truth on a whole nother degree. That was painfully evident to express what motivated and moved me to the places that I really cared about, but my ego wanted to hold on to the fact that I couldn't because I wasn't quite there yet. And oh, my heart goes out in such appreciation to a beautiful horse called Sarita, who took me on a ride back to the depths of my raw, crying, aching soul by almost throwing me into a supercharged electric fence, but didn't. But just enough to break a few ribs and let the light in to honor the space that was calling me back to just push pause and be still and fill myself up yet again. And I know from that moment on that I knew I needed to create more sustainability in my personal and business life, because my body was no longer letting me be all things to everyone, which is something I pretty much tried to do for most of my life as the abandoned child or the people-pleasing perfectionistic addict that couldn't live without the feeding cycle of other people. And it's been in a deep dive into my values that all my health issues essentially forced me to look even closer at my patterns of exactly that and what it means to be enough. And the animals are always constantly guiding me and waking me up in ways I could never imagine into being. And most of it is a reckoning with my daily choices and a dismantling and unbecoming and unlearning of unhelpful, mostly cultural or familial or ancestral beliefs and suppressed trauma that I, knowingly or unknowingly, had entered into that soul contract to not just do it for myself, but to share it with you in the letting go of the stories, the habits, and even the clutter that just doesn't match anymore. There is no belonging there. To say that it has been a great adventure would be an understatement of this year or the year before it or the 17 before that, where I almost relaxed enough to let go of my physical body and die. And there have been a lot of ups and downs, I won't lie to you. There's been everything and anything and nothing in between, in that luminal space that I fondly call the waiting room. And I've often felt like I'm bulldozing down the house of my heart with no plans for what would be outcreated or rebuilt or remembered. It was like I was stripped down to my very core and left only with this vast wasteland, a wing and a prayer, like I was washing away years of grime and gunk that filled every crevice of my being. Like I let go of things I previously thought were mine forever. And when it comes down to it, looking honestly at our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our behaviors, our habits, the shadows and beliefs, it's not easy. It's messy and it's hard and it's terrifying. And it isn't for the faint-hearted. But the benefits outweigh the risk every single time. Because I know more than anything that when we do that work from ourselves, from the deep down, when we look ourselves right in the eye, we find freedom from the bonds of should and could and supposed to and must. We heal from the trauma of the lies of not enoughness. And in that place of coming back to the heart of trusting that we are enough, we see ourselves as whole and sovereign. We gain courage and confidence and the tenacity, the audacity to prioritize our own integrity over being nice or liked or I'm fine or me too or any of those other social norms and that are so not normal. Those cultural blankets that smother the life out of our very essence of being in our true nature. And as always, there is always more work to do. Health-wise, I still have really challenging days and a long way to go, but I thank my physical body every day for reminding me that life is so precious and so undefinable that it's actually unfuckwithable. And I know that there's more fear to transmute into trust and more messiness to transmute into a semblance of being in the space of loving whatever arises, because the unconditional part still has a charge for me. Maybe it does for you, but everything is a path to unconditional love and compassionate after all. But even knowing that there are so many steps ahead, I, for one, know that I feel more connected to myself than ever, and my clients are mirroring that back to me, which I am eternally grateful for. I mean, I feel a deeper knowledge of my energetic boundaries and what it means to fully express myself in the world, of the world, because I'm clear about my needs, my values, and my desire, my core desired feelings. That with this Taurus new moon are even more grounded in advocating for them. So yes, it's been another messy and painful year, but it's been so worth it. And I'm really looking forward to what will transpire from here and what the world and the universe will make of me. I've learned a lot along the way. So I've put together a couple of tips on letting go of the things in the way of what you want, really, really want, and are ready and willing to do the work to show up no matter what. So whether it's your old ideas about life, your visions of beating the Joneses, your calendar, your to-do list, your outdated and misguided definitions of who you are, your marriage that hasn't worked in decades, the clothes that haven't fit in years, or the shoes that make your toes bleed. Here are a couple of my steps of what it means to fully embrace change and let yourself go. First, big breaths if it's safe for you. And remember to have a beginner's mind, to enter into a place of adventure and messy experimentation. Because when we become attached to certain outcomes or tied to expectations, that really gets in the way of being able to flow and heal. So as you begin, think of your life as a testing ground, a big magical laboratory where you are a scientist conducting tests to see what works and what doesn't. And sometimes your experiments will fail and you'll have to start over from ground zero. But eventually they will pass with flying colors, because actually, do we ever go back to what we think we needed to go? Or do we build upon the space of trust that intrinsically is part of our true nature? So when the shit hits the fan of life, it can feel like you need to totally overhaul and let go of everything. It might feel like you need to burn every single thing down to the ground and rise like the phoenix out of the ashes. But in most cases, the reality of it is that it will just overwhelm you. So remember, it is temporary. And just choose one thing to recalibrate and realign and focus on, like the way you scheduled your calendar or your sock drawer or your habit of checking social media first thing. Whatever you choose, be sure that it requires you to play at the outside edges of your comfort zone. Because if you stay inside of what you know, you won't grow at all. And if you step too far out, you'll blow out your nervous system and give up before you've even become or begun. So play at your edge here and create a vision of what you want. Because once you've decided where you are going to focus, then you get to set an intention and create a vision for what you want. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a vision board, because you can't paste pictures on a board or yourself into abundance or happiness or health. You have to do the work in aligned action. So just know, keep it real, and see it for what it is, as a simple statement about what you want. The important thing is to be clear. And I recommend focusing on value-driven visions instead of things or circumstances. The things and circumstances are a natural byproduct of your living into your values. So what matters to you? Go there. And then choose to live in alignment, in congruence, integrity with your vision. Because one of the things I see happen and time again is people waiting until things are perfect or until they are ready to make their vision a reality. And let's face it, there's always going to be a big but in your way. The truth is that if your visions are based on your values, you can have whatever you want right now. Maybe you can have your cake and eat it too. It just might not be all at the same time. So don't set unrealistic expectations. You don't have to wait until circumstances change. You can just simply choose to live into your integrity. It's the grit with a vision that creates a meaningful life moment by moment of every waking hour. So let's say that your values are vulnerability and equality. You don't need to wait for outside circumstances to change in order for you to be more vulnerable and raw and messy, or to treat others with compassion and kindness in that space of fertile listening, you can do that right now. And when you do, life will feel immediately satisfying. No more waiting. You can be the energy you want more of, and choose it again and again. I talk about this all the time. There are no mistakes. There are only the moment of opportunity to take something and try it on. And if you miss it or hit it, the choice is yours to choose and choose again. And as you do that, the outer circumstances will start to line up automatically without force. That's the part of you that trusts in a divine plan, trusts in the universe that has your back, that it's a friendly universe, not one that is against you or hostile or barren. So notice where you get triggered or find resistance. As you go through your day-to-day life, choosing to live in integrity with yourself. That is true belonging. Belong to yourself first. Then you can belong to your vision. And yes, you will get triggered. You will meet resistance. And you probably will self-sabotage. But it's a muscle. And the more you practice and train that, the less you have to spend in that space of suffering. Because a lot of the women I encounter make this mean that they don't deserve what they want, or that it just isn't meant to be, which is a whole load of bullshit, isn't it? So let's make beautiful, rich fertilizer out of all the shit that you've been telling yourself, because you know deep down that it doesn't actually mean any of that. And when you can set powerful soul-aligned intentions, the stuff that is in the way will automatically show up because you are ready to feel it so that you can heal it and transform and transmute that into lighter being and true belonging. That's how alchemy works. So if you have a strong value around minimalism, for example, you may choose to create a capsule wardrobe so that you could get dressed without stress each day. You know, I, for one, am okay with the fact that I have a beautiful wardrobe of clothes, and yet I put on the same uniform every day because it's comfortable and it holds me, and I don't expend energy worrying about what my body might want to wear. I just ask it, and it always goes for simplicity. So as you set that intention, you'll realize that you currently have maybe 3 closets full of clothes, plus some in your attic if you have one. And if you freak out and give up, you won't be able to trim down your wardrobe. Likewise, if you are filling your days with overworking and doing for others, and you really want to spend more time devoted to your self-rituality, your practice of loving yourself first, belonging to yourself first, then doesn't it make sense that you'll need to be really honest with yourself about why you put everybody else first? Is it because you're trying to earn your worthiness? In order to let that go, you've got to look at it first. And here's the thing. In healing the mother, father, familial, ancestral, cultural trauma along your timeline, it just takes a moment to stop the madness, to stop the craziness, and ask yourself, what would love do right here? It's a reason to celebrate because it means the healing has already begun. So work through the blocks that show up. Undoubtedly, this is the hard part. And I love the saying, I say it all the time, because horse medicine holds that container for me to open my heart and love whatever arises. Is don't ask for a lighter load, ask for a stronger back. Allow the sticky places to guide you here and there and everywhere. Because the places that feel triggering or emotional are the very places and spaces that you're being invited into to heal in order to move forward. So letting go is really about working through the feelings of doubt and guilt and blame and shame. All those other destructive implants that keep you distracted from where you really want to go. So if you're feeling guilty about getting rid of your clothes that you spent good money on, seems such a silly example, but it's one of those places we go to. Healing the guilt is how you let go with ease so that you don't have the disease to please or get it right. It's such a relief, isn't it? If you feel shame about taking care of yourself because you think it's selfish, then you'll need to hear that maybe that shame never belonged to you in the first place. Maybe it's not about healing shame, but really giving it a space within you to know that it's okay to feel this way. Letting go isn't about getting rid of anything, especially your thoughts, feelings, or emotions. It's about going into them and doing your shadow work so that you can feel alive. That's where you heal. So letting go is a natural byproduct of doing your work. And as you start letting go, you'll also want to take a really close, compassionate look, a radically honest look at what you need to ask for in order to make your vision a reality. What systems do you need to put in place to support your vision? What do you need in order to be fully engaged in your beautiful life? That is, of course, brutal and painful and ecstatic and blissful, brutal and beautiful all at the same time. Do you need a journal that helps you track your insights and patterns? I certainly recommend that one. But what do you need in order to fully feel supported in your vision, to live into your legacy now, not when you're dead? It's the one biggest regret that most people that were on their deathbeds had to say, was that they regretted the moments where they held back from following their body's impulse to dance in the rain naked, or sing that song, or let go of the stuff that they were trying to protect that was actually killing them. So the key here is to be really honest with yourself, because it will reveal more stuff to let go and make beautiful fertilizer to put back into your garden and tend the seeds that you've planted to grow into wise, abundant, beautiful trees of life. So just remember that getting triggered doesn't mean you don't deserve it. It means you have wounds that are ready to be healed, and it is an opportunity to engage with yourself, to be sovereign to yourself. And as you live in integrity with your vision, as you start letting go of your blocks and bring in more of what you want, the cycle will continue to grow and expand as you repeat it. And this can also get some of you down, I know, because maybe you have this unrealistic expectation that one day your mother will come and rescue you or love you, or your father will come and tell you everything's going to be all right. Stop waiting to reach a perfect place where life will be all roses and unicorns and butterflies. You are the bridge between heaven and earth. And really, life is a constant invitation to let go of the things that don't serve you anymore, that don't match your vision to play full out. Life is an invitation to heal and heal some more and more and more. And sometimes it's not like peeling the layers of the metaphorical onion. Sometimes it's about nucleated spheres. And you can peel and peel away, but you never reach the core of the root of what's keeping you trapped in those repetitive patterns of abuse and suffering and pain and self-sabotage. So don't beat yourself up. Be compassionate with yourself. Be kind. Tread gently on your earth. Spread that fertilizer that you have created of all the crap you don't need anymore. And remember that this is how things are supposed to happen, because it's written in your Akashic record. And you get to edit that anytime you want. It's why you're here in this adventure called life, because your voice matters. And there are people waiting for you to show up and share that, not later, but now. So how about it? Could you just allow yourself to use this beautiful Taurian energy to create some containers that can hold you in a loving way, to keep you aligned to your true north, to keep you in the space of futuring a brilliant life, just because of you choosing to be here right now in this space. And as always, remember, you are so loved. And I so deeply appreciate you being a part of my life, because you remind me every day that you send me a love note or respond to a mail or show up on a Facebook Live or come into my practice, into my clinic with yourself, your animals, your loved ones, because you want more, you want better, and you know it's possible. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So go on with your life, enjoy your weekend, and just trust. You have always been enough, and you will always be enough, regardless of where you came from. And even though you can't change what happened to you, you can transform that trauma into Dharma right now. All you have to do is choose, and the power of choice is yours. And I love you.